What's up there, social media family? It's Chris, your favorite coach, your favorite host, back again with another edition of Conversations with Chris, where I meet interesting people that have done some pretty amazing things that I enjoy talking to about their business, and I think they've got stuff to share with you. So we're here with Sydney. She's the founder of Delightful Planning, which is it's almost like an oxymoron to say that, because people that have gone through the wedding process or any kind of event planning know that sometimes it could be less than delightful. So I tip my hat to you. Yay. Round of applause for Sydney. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your history. I know you were a bride to be, kind of got wrapped up in all the planning, and that evolution led you to launch this amazing service that you've got. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So once upon a time, a few years back, I worked in the wedding industry. I've worked events and all of that. And I've always loved the wedding industry. I just didn't quite know like where I'd fit into it or what I wanted to do. And then a few years later, I was a bride myself. And I was like, this is a lot. It's really a lot to plan a wedding. And I've worked weddings. My master's is in project management, which isn't wedding, but it still is like, what are all the pieces that need to go in to make this big event or this big project happen? So I think it definitely like correlates over to weddings. And I was kind of thinking like, if this is a lot for me who's worked weddings and knows what to do, like how about the people who have no idea and who maybe can't afford a wedding planner? And so that's really where I was like, I want to do this and I really want to help people have their fairy tale wedding, no matter what experience they have, no matter what budget they have.
That's funny. So you said, when you said you've worked weddings, right? So you kind of just glanced over that. What exactly was your role in, before you had this company? How were you working weddings?
I worked for a wedding planner, so I was her assistant.
Gotcha. So you worked in weddings as wedding planning, and what you learn along the way. That's, clearly you've come across some pain points, and then you yourself did it. So tell us like what you learned along the way, and what pain points really caused you to end up where you are today.
I think I learned how crazy the wedding industry really is. Like I remember my first like wedding I worked, I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. But it was interesting as the wedding planning assistant, because on the wedding day, I spent a lot of time with the bride herself. And with the bridesmaids, with the family, and I was kind of bouncing around behind the scenes, making sure that they were okay, while my boss was setting up the actual venue. And of course, throughout the day, I would go help her with stuff and go back and forth. But I definitely saw a lot of the behind the scenes of the bride herself, and I saw some great happy days, and I saw some chaotic moments. And I want everybody to have that happy day, not the chaotic moment.
Yeah. So what's the gap in the market that you saw? Like, so where did you said, okay, man, I want everyone to have these happy moments all the time. That's what I want it to be for them. And so I'm going to create Delightful Planning to ensure that. Was that kind of your process?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like, do I want to be a full-time wedding planner? I wasn't sure if I wanted to go that route. And it was actually, my dad is a business coach. And so he was building this like online platform. And it was kind of like a light bulb moment for me of like, wait, what if I do that for weddings? Because not everybody can afford like a full-time wedding planner. So what if I do kind of like a middle ground, a virtual program where they can still feel like they have a wedding planner, but it's kind of pre-recorded. I also do one-on-one coaching if somebody wanted to do that.
So, I love this idea. So tell us about Delightful Planning. It's wedding planning service, but it's also kind of a technology. You mentioned you have a DIY platform, which is really cool. I'm into that stuff. You put that together. So you've got everything from somebody that just needs some advice or a process or systems or tools to follow, all the way up into one-on-one planning, like kind of like the company that you work for, and everything in between.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's like a twist on wedding planning. I know it's, some people are like, wait, so what are you? I call myself a wedding planning coach because I'm coaching you through the process, but I'm not going to be there doing everything for you like a full-time wedding planner will.
Gotcha.
I'm kind of hitting that sweet spot of people who might want to do it themselves, but need some guidance. And so I'll do the one-on-one coaching, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's meeting one-on-one and discussing people's people stay, their plans. They can tell me what situations they're facing, and I can try to advise them through it. And then the program that I built is a self-paced program that is broken down into lessons and modules of every single step of the way that they would need to do. It has timelines and checklists and budgeting, and it comes with customizable templates for them to put in their information. So it's like having a wedding planner, like just at your own pace.
I love that. So it's, what are you finding the need is of most of the brides and grooms that come to you now? Most of the people, are they, what's their biggest need or biggest challenge that you're helping with?
I think they're just overwhelmed. Like they don't know where to start. There's so many free tips and tricks and things online, which I put that stuff out there too, of TikTok videos and whatnot. But what my program does is puts it in order of step by step of like, this is what you need to do and this is when you need to do it. And yes, there's all this other fancy fluff out there and we'll get there, but like focus on this, because there's just too much. People feel like they have to do everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we say the law of diminishing returns, right? That list gets so big and it causes you to do nothing. So what you've done is help them. What's the end game? And let's reverse engineer this process. And what's the next thing you need to do next, just kind of getting it all done in the order it's supposed to get done. And that way they don't have to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. So I did, guys, run with Sydney from Delightful Planning. I did in the comments there, I just put a quick link to the website. So somebody goes to your website, what would they expect to see? What's available to them there?
So kind of like we were just talking about, the two biggest things are the coaching packages or the self-paced program, or I have a bundle where you could do some coaching sessions and the self-paced. And the idea with that is that, they're going through the program themselves, but when they get stuck or if they want to talk to me, they can say like, hey, I'm on this lesson or in this module. And we can go a deeper dive into their specific needs.
Gotcha. So and what's the process if somebody wants to start working with you? So they would come here. Typically, are they scheduling a consultation with you to figure out where they fit, or are they kind of downloading one of your templates? Or
so, I mean, it's whatever they feel drawn to, but I'd have a 15-minute free coaching session, and under the coaching page, they can go ahead and book that. It's linked to my Calendly. So they can go ahead and book it. Or if they do choose to purchase a coaching package, they're able to schedule all of their sessions. It's hooked up to my calendar.
Perfect. And that's here. Yeah, I see. Could book a private coaching session. Great. So you've got that all here. So you'll talk to them for 15 minutes. I love that. So if anybody's got an event coming up,
I think it's pretty fair to want to, I always say, even in my program, like, get to know your vendors, because your vendors are going to be the people with you on your wedding day and throughout this entire process. And that's myself included. So that's why I will have that free session of, hey, let's just get to know each other, see if we're a good fit. Because I know you want to know all of your vendors and make sure that you like them. So that's why I offer that free 15-minute session of an intro to see, should we do the coaching sessions or should you dive on into the program?
Yeah. Do people come to you a lot of the times before they have their, when's the ideal time? Let's talk about that. When's the ideal time for them to kind of connect with you? Is it before they've even got a venue, or like, hey, we booked a date, let's talk to Sydney? Or is it they've already got a venue and they've already got some bumps and bruises along the way, then they connect with you? What's the ideal time?
So if I had it my way, everybody would come to me as like the day that they get engaged, so from the very beginning before issues arise. But that's not always the case. A lot of people do try to, tackle it on their own. And when they realize it's a lot and they're overwhelmed is when they start searching for, help. And so if I could advise somebody is to reach out the day you're engaged, but that's not always what happens. Usually people, have to hit that pain point, and then they see the need of, I need some advice here, or I'm stuck.
Yeah. I work with a lot of businesses, and it's people like, oh, well, would you rather work with like an upstart? It's fun then, because that's when people don't have a lot of money, but they're all creative. but sometimes it's you get a business that's really broken and you need to fix it. So that's kind of like you're inheriting these brides and these grooms, these people that are planning their weddings after they've already possibly screwed some things up, and they really need the help. That's where they see the value in working with someone like yourself.
But I mean, it's not like I mind. Like for the coaching, I enjoy it. Like when they bring me issues, and if I could coach them through that, that's my goal, is to make it easier for them. The program is set up from the moment you get engaged, but if somebody comes and says like, "Hey, I already booked a venue," I'm like, "Okay, skip that section." It's not like a course where you're going to be graded. Like if you already did that module, then just skip it and move on to, there's a site map, so you can see every single section of where you are, and you can just plug yourself in.
Mm-hmm. It's you've made these, you've taken all the guesswork out of it. So how involved, you mentioned the vendors before, getting to know the vendors and all that kind of stuff. How involved do you get with your clients in helping them select vendors or venues, things like that?
So since I am on the coaching side of it instead of planning,
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally get super involved in their vendors. I really guide them as to what conversations they need to have with their vendors and prepare them with what questions to ask, and give them the tools to kind of do it themselves.
So exactly. So you kind of, you hook them up this system in the process, you give them the questions to ask, you tell them what to look for, you give them guidelines, all that kind of stuff. Then, so they select all their people. What if they wanted help in selecting vendors? Do you get involved with that? Or if they want a day of coordination, anything like that, do you offer those kinds of services?
Right now, I'm not offering day of coordination. I would maybe try to help them find a day of coordinator to be there. The biggest difference is just that turns into full service wedding planning if I'm contacting them, and I would just have to charge a lot more money, like wedding planners do. And so that's where I'm trying to hit that sweet spot of people who might not want to pay for that full service, but still get some help.
Yeah, I got you. So you're people the people that can't, the people that can't afford full service wedding planning, but they feel like they could do it themselves. They just want some guidance. They want someone to hold their hand, and a professional expert like yourself. That would be the ideal client for you.
Yeah, it would be. The other thing is, this is no hate on wedding planners. They are absolutely fantastic. But a wedding planner's job, a traditional wedding planner, is the actual wedding day. They're not responsible for finding your dress and your bridesmaid's dress, even the rehearsal dinner. Most wedding planners are not going to plan that for you. That's a separate event. If you want them to plan that, you're going to have to pay their event fee all over again. And that can be a crazy amount of money. So that's where my program and my coaching can kind of walk you through the entire engagement season of all of the behind the scenes things, like your bridal shower, a bachelorette weekend, picking out your dress alterations. I mean, I think I myself went to 6 or 7 alteration appointments, and it was just a whole thing with the bustle of the dress, and you don't really know that. And your wedding planner, even if you hire a full service wedding planner, they're not there with you at that appointment. But my program does have a section about it. So it's like, hey, listen to this before you go to this appointment, so you're prepared and you know what to expect.
That's cool. It's all, I think it's all about preparation. It sounds like you've kind of just where you've kind of walked the path and you're looking behind you, say, hey, there's a hole there. Don't worry. Don't step there. Go this way, kind of that. So tell us about the book. I know you have a book out or on the way.
I do. No, I have a book. It's right here. So the book is Your Day, Your Way. And it's kind of my introduction to the wedding industry. When I was starting to create my program, I had a few people be like, why does it matter? Like, why do the plans matter so much? And that's kind of what I quickly put in, not quickly wrote it. It took a lot of time, but just someone can read it quickly on what is this whole wedding planning thing? And here are some big topics that you should look out for, and an introduction into why I think planning is so important.
And how can, I mean, they can get the book on your website. I see. So if they just go there and click on the book, they can order it right there.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. So that link will bring them over to Amazon.
Yeah, wonderful. And I imagine that anybody that works with you maybe gets a copy of that book.
Yeah, I'll send them a book.
That's wonderful. And what's next on the horizon for you? What do you got coming up?
So right now I'm really diving into the coaching. I've thought about doing group coaching. That's maybe on the horizon. I'm trying to decide what that would look like.
Mhm.
But this is a relatively new business for me, and so this is kind of what's on the horizon right now is, really diving into this, getting people in the program and taking on more one-on-one clients.
That's right. So have you I mean, on the business end of it, where do you find that most of your clients are coming from nowadays? I know we met at a bridal expo. I mean, uh, most everybody knows that I'm a partner in a video production company, and I think kind of are you finding that it's easy to target from a business perspective? Is it easy to target people that are engaged or brides and grooms to be and whatnot?
I definitely feel like that I've done a couple expos, and like I said, it's a relatively new business for me. Um, I do like the expos because it is targeted. Of
Mm.
those are
Yeah.
brides and grooms. Social media can be great too, but
Mhm.
they're not all necessarily engaged. That hits a broader audience, and then you have to find the right people.
Yeah, of course. It's so you're because I noticed you're pretty active on social media, kind of putting out tips and tricks and things like that. Have you just been consistently kind of dripping out stuff, and your call to action there is to say, "Hey, hop on a 15-minute call with me and see how I can help you."
Yeah, I mean that I try to be as consistent as possible. It's not always as easier said than done. But yeah, I'm trying to be as consistent as possible and
Yeah,
posting out tips and tricks and, offering people some value. And then hopefully they'll want more value.
that's perfect. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, what's one piece of advice, the best piece of advice that you can give people that are either about to get engaged, looking to plan a wedding? But if you give them one piece of advice you wish you had maybe back then, what would that be?
I know it's hard to pick like one piece of advice. I mean, the subheading on my book is like how to plan the perfect wedding
Yeah.
without losing sight of what really matters. And so that's even though I do stress to like have a good plan, stay organized, because the better you plan, the more you're going to enjoy your wedding day. I think the best piece of advice is like don't lose sight of what really matters. You're there because you love your spouse. You want to spend the rest of your life with your spouse.
Mm.
Um, if the flowers are pink instead of purple, like nobody probably knows that but you. So just focus on, the meaning of the day. I've seen and I've heard so many people lose friendships and get in fights with family over wedding planning. And that's really the opposite of what the point is. It's two families joining together. It shouldn't be fighting and chaos. So try not to let it turn into that.
Yeah, I love that. So it's kind of, and you help everybody with that to just not have to worry about all the planning and all the minutia. We say all the details that you just get bogged down in, and just the magic of the day, right? The whole meaning of these two families merging together. Do you get involved with planning besides weddings, or is it just do you do event coaching around other kinds of events?
So right now I'm focused on weddings, but I
Mm.
have worked other events, so corporate events. So maybe it's something I'll dive into in the future. But right now my whole world is focused on the wedding planning.
Well, there's certainly a big market. There's certainly a big market for out there. And what would you like to leave everybody with? If there's something that I'm not asking you, something you think it's super important for the world to know out there, whether they're planning a wedding or they know somebody who's planning a wedding, or maybe even a distant thought for them. What do you want them to know?
I think I touched on it a minute ago, but just it's kind of a balance because I say, hey, don't lose sight of the meaning of the day. Like if the colors of the flowers are wrong, it's no big deal. But also, the more that you plan, the better your wedding day will be. And so I guess my one tip is when you get engaged, if you want an organized, nice wedding, you have to put in the work. And the sooner you start, the more time you will have, the better your engagement season will be. You'll actually get to enjoy it if you do a little bit at a time. And if you stay really organized the day of your wedding, you'll be able to just wake up and enjoy your day rather than wondering what's happening and, chaos. So it's kind of that balance of, hey, you're the only one that really knows the plan, so don't freak out. But also, if you want it to be nice, put in the work and try to stay organized and have a good plan.
That's awesome. And if there's one tool that you have that would be super useful for people, what would it be? Would it your wedding checklist, your planner?
I mean, I would say the Your Day Plan, which is my program that I built. It's really It really has, like, if somebody goes in, starts at the beginning and goes step by step, it will really walk you through every single step of the way. It it's not I'm not a wedding planner being there doing it for you, but you have even more than what a wedding planner would do for you in this program, and it's only $299,
Mhm.
where planners can be like thousands of dollars. So
Sure. Mhm.
yeah.
So start here, and then but do you think is there some people you would talk to for that 15-minute kind of free consultation that you might say, you know what, maybe you should, there's a lot of intricacies, maybe you should go for a full service planner. Is that like that conversation you could determine what's the best route for them to take? Sometimes maybe do you come across people that this wouldn't be enough for them?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really if somebody wants someone to do it for them.
Yeah.
If somebody has room in their budget and they're looking for somebody to do it for them,
Mhm.
then a wedding planner would be maybe a better option,
Mhm.
or the wedding planner combined with my program would be a better option.
Perfect.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not going to take away the value of a wedding planner. They
Mhm.
will do a lot of this stuff for you.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we say there's three things, right? There's the do it yourself, which you offer, which is kind of like, hey, plug into my thing. You know, there's videos, there's the tools, there's all the templates I've built for you. Then you have the done with you, which is kind of where you're coaching them, holding their hand through the process, step by step, kind of holding them through the do it yourself process. And then there's the done for you, which is the full service wedding planning that's, but you're encouraging people to give it a shot and do it themselves with your assistance. So you're basically, it's almost like you're teaching brides and grooms to be how to be wedding planners for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think in life, hindsight's always 2020, and so
Mhm.
that's what a lot of people, I would bet that most brides and grooms could say, "Hey, if I were to do it again, I would do this." And so that's what I'm trying to give them in advance of as much knowledge going into it so that they don't have those regrets. The other thing is a lot of people go and do a day of coordinator only. They don't do a full-time wedding
Mhm.
planner. And so that day of coordinator typically is going to start working with them about 30 days prior to the wedding.
Mhm.
And so my program is a fantastic option to get them from the day that they're engaged up until that like 30-day mark so that they know they're not missing a step. And
Mhm.
when they do start working with that day of or month of coordinator, they can have an organized almost package to hand
Yeah.
to them and say, "Hey, this is my plans. Now can you kind of take over and make sure that the day of goes smoothly?"
I would imagine that your service would be a good service even to talk to those day of coordinators or month of coordinators that they can kind of hit the easy button and plug into what you've got going on. Just, for somebody that's going to hire them on their wedding, say, hey, you go through the Delightful Planning program, right? And
Mhm.
then we'll talk. We'll make sure you get all that stuff done, cross your T's, dot your I's, and then we'll talk the month or day of your wedding. I mean, have you been networking with any planners in that regard?
Yeah, I have reached out to some planners, and I mean, not only just planners, but I've talked to a few photographers who are like, "Wow, I wish all of my brides and grooms had an organized like day of timeline and whatnot, or like went through your program because it affects all of the vendors. If they don't have their day well
Mhm.
planned, it's not just going to be a bad day for the bride and groom; it's going to be a bad day for the vendors. And I'm sure you've been to a wedding that's the timeline is off, and then it's just like it affects everybody.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think I've had many wedding vendors be like, "Oh my gosh, like I need all of my couples to go through this program so that it is a smooth wedding day."
Yeah, and I've noticed a difference even talking about smooth wedding days, coming down to South Florida from New York. In New York, when I had my entertainment company and I emceed weddings, all the catering halls have maitre d's and stuff. So you virtually never see day of coordinators or planners and things like that. Everything's kind of taken care of. But I know it's down here in Florida, everybody's, they're having weddings at barns or these buildings and things like that where there's no staff at the venue.
Mhm.
They'll have a DJ with no MC. They'll, that's where I'm really noticing the day of coordinator comes in handy. However, I officiate weddings too. I officiated a wedding. Their day of coordinator knew nothing until she walked in that day, and it was a disaster. Just the timeline was all screwed up. The wedding started late. What happened is she was not prepped on anything, and she was letting the bride call all the shots, and the bride, you know, doesn't always know what's going to be best for that wedding. Don't open up the dance floor yet. I don't want anybody to see me. Let's start late. I'm waiting for people, all that kind of stuff. And it ended up being a disaster. So I think that combination of if they would have had something like you've gotten everything together to be able to hand over to somebody that's going to take care of things that day, that sounds like a home run. And then they can experience what you're talking about, just enjoying the day, enjoying the wedding day for what it is, kind of merging these two families. So
yeah, I think a lot of people just have no clue. Like they think, oh, I have this day of coordinator. They're going to take care of everything. And it's like, no, they're not going to take care of everything. Like you have to prep them. And so that's where I'm trying to, give my knowledge and say, hey, pay attention to these things. And the thing is, if you do, you can have a really great wedding day. On my wedding day, I remember my mother-in-law was like, why are you so calm? And I was like, because everything's like planned. Meanwhile, the whole engagement season, like my family was making fun of me because I had labels on everything and I was super organized. They're like, oh, you're so organized. And then on the wedding day, they're asking me, why are you so calm? And I'm like, remember how organized I was? Like, that's why, because everything's in place.
Yeah, right. Well, you're talking the talk. You're proof of it. You've worked in the industry. You did it yourself. You saw a gap in the market, which was kind of in between that I have no help and hiring this full-time planner. And you've certainly solved those problems. I think you've got that program in there, that do-it-yourself program for less than $300. I think that's great, lifetime access. And then you have the coaching where you're going to kind of hold their hand through the process and give them the advice. I can't imagine the smart, savvy consumers of today needing more than that, actually. So kudos to you, and we wish you the best of luck. Is there any other parting words that you have for anybody out there that's listening or watching us on replay, whatever it is? And I put the link down there in the comments so everybody will be able to have access. That's the one, delightfulplanning.com. You could schedule with Sydney. You could buy her program just right there without ever talking to her and have access to her program for your lifetime. Maybe you have several weddings. Maybe you keep it until your kids get married and all that kind of stuff. But is there any parting words that you have for everybody out there?
Just kind of what I said before of like, don't lose sight of what really matters. But also if you want to have a good day, plan in advance. That's kind of my two big things of balance that.
That's right. If you want to have a great day and you want to enjoy that day, do the work up front to plan it. Sydney and Delightful Planning has made it super easy for you. So check it out. The website is there in the comments. And we're very accessible. If you have questions for Sydney or myself afterwards, this video is going to live right there where you're seeing it. And you'll be able to watch it on replay and click on the links and have access to everybody, right? You're pretty easy to get in touch with, I'd say, Sydney, right?
Yeah, and my email is sydney@delightfulplanning.com, same as my website, my name and then my website. So anybody reach out or schedule a 15-minute consultation, and I'm happy to help you out.
Perfect. Thanks for talking to us today, Sydney. We appreciate you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.